Welcome to another episode of Inside York Tech, a podcast featuring students, staff, and alumni of the York County School of Technology.
All right, that's right. This is Inside York Tech, and I'm your host, Nick Staub. We're here with four great guests. I'm really excited. Hopefully you can tell because we're going to be talking about something that is pretty cool in my opinion. So obviously most people who are familiar with York Tech, they think career programs, technical programs. We're teaching students those skills they need to be successful in the workforce. But one thing I think that sometimes gets forgotten are those related skills, such as personal finance, and how can you be successful in saving your money and achieving long-term goals along with that career that you've learned here. So our four guests all have experience with personal finance. We have two instructors, we have one current student, and we also have a recent graduate. So I'm excited to get into it. We're actually going to start with Mrs. Tania Moreira. She is a teacher here at York Tech who teaches Personal Finance 1 and Small Business Ownership. Do I have that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Mrs. Moreira, I'd be interested to hear a little bit about your path to get here to York Tech and how long you've been with us.
I've been with York Tech approximately 4 years. Prior to this, I was in industry, so I worked in pharmaceutical sales management for about 20 plus years. I've owned several businesses, and I have taught adults how to effectively manage their money over the years.
That's great. I appreciate you being with us. And kind of in that same vein, we have another instructor, Mr. Travis Gaidos. Mr. Gaidos, if you could tell us a little bit about your path to get here to York Tech and how long you've been with us.
Yes, so I started about 18 years ago. I started with a coaching job and ended up getting hired as a math teacher. So I was a certified math teacher for a number of years, and the ability to communicate math skills wasn't really my passion. So I was thinking, what else can I do with these skills? And I went out into kind of the real world a little bit and said, what skill can I have besides just teaching math? And that was personal finance. And a position happened to open up, and I got certified in personal finance. Well, actually it's business, and personal finance was the course. And I was able to transfer over from the math department into the business department.
Well, and I've had the pleasure of being in your classroom a couple of times, and I can tell that passion really shines through. So we're excited to have you here as well. And we also have a current student who's taking Personal Finance 2.
Personal Finance 1.
Got it. Okay, and that's Asher Hortman. Asher, can you tell us what grade you're in and the program that you're currently studying?
So hi, I'm Asher Hortman. I'm currently in 11th grade, and I'm at Tech for Engineering and Advanced Manufacturing.
Yeah, so basically you're smart on two fronts. Smart for taking personal finance, and obviously you got the smarts for engineering and advanced manufacturing. Thanks for being with us. And I also want to introduce, we have a recent graduate, and correct me if I'm wrong, Yandel, but you were the president of the class of 2023, is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you tell us a little bit about your time here at York Tech? I know you were involved in some extracurriculars, and also if you could share some about your technical program that you studied.
Yeah, so my time at York Tech was actually quite fascinating. I studied in informational technology, specifically hardware. I found hardware to be very, not tedious, but there were times where it could be challenging. But I also find it interesting for the most part. I had a great teacher, Mr. Padahovich. He was able to create a great atmosphere and a good, healthy learning atmosphere. Overall, the class was great, and I definitely would advise taking it if you definitely love hands-on things.
So I want to kind of dive into personal finance. I want to start with some of those unique success stories that Mrs. Moreira and Mr. Gaidos have shared with me, because those are absolutely fascinating. I'll start with Mr. Gaidos. You kind of in like some sidebar conversations had shared that you have former students who are really doing amazing things with the skills they learned in personal finance.
Yes. It goes from the small things like I just have some money to some big things like I've been able to pay cash for a car. I've been able to understand that there's money out there for scholarships for college and getting full rides. To I now have a budget and can now actually think about buying my own house and moving out. So that's amazing. Just in the short couple years I've been in the personal finance, I think about 7 years now. So if you think just a graduate in 7 years is thinking about purchasing a house or coming out of college without any debt, or these kids that are having cars paid for with cash, that's just an amazing story and testament to their discipline and kind of the information that they got from the class and were able to apply it in real life.
And I think that's truthfully amazing. I mean, the fact that in only 7 years, if you were one of those first students that took the course, that you're now paying cash for stuff is remarkable to me. I know, Mrs. Moreira, you'd shared you have some other success stories. Can you give us a little info about that?
Yeah, I really love hearing from students. And most of the time I hear that they're just excited that they took the course because they learned so much. They learned that they don't have to be in debt. They don't have to take a loan for a car. They could actually save up and buy a car. They don't have to have credit card debt. They don't have to have student loan debt. So I think it's just really important that they learned that lesson. And when I hear that, it really makes me smile because unfortunately, 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck with minimal savings. You have got less than half of Americans that have a $500 emergency fund. When we have all these buy now, pay later programs, which are so detrimental to Americans that they are becoming more burdened with debt. So when you hear students say that they're not going in debt with credit cards and student loans and car loans, it really makes me smile and makes me very happy to hear that.
I don't know if this is the perfect analogy, but I kind of, in my mind, it's almost like a video cheat code, right? Like you come here, you get the academics, you're taught a career, and then we give you the skills to be able to save up and really do whatever you want financially. It's almost like the complete package.
Yeah, when you think about it, I mean, financial literacy is a key life skill, right? I mean, everyone has to handle money at some point. So why not learn how to effectively manage it while you're in high school?
And I kind of want to hear from Yandel. You've been through personal finance. You have now graduated, and now you kind of have some of that experience. You're in college at the moment. How does your experience sort of give you a leg up compared to some of your peers?
So I know a lot of my peers. So I don't want to assume, but the way I see it is, I mean, I can go in the cafeteria, and I could have water, right? But I want orange juice. But then there's like that rich mindset in me that has been taught that's like, oh no, you have water, you don't need orange, like that's $3 that you could save and put into your savings, you know what I mean? So I say with that mindset is why I have a leg up. I know I speak to other peers and they save, they they work, they have a balanced lifestyle, and while they may not be paying car for cash, they have some sort of understanding of personal finance. Well, where it gives me a leg up is debt equals death, is how I look at it. So having that emphasis and that mindset, like everywhere I go, it's more of a like, oh well, I can't pay for this right now, or there's a cheaper alternative. I'll go buy my clothes at a thrift shop. I'll wash them. I'll find different alternatives to save money. And I mean, even for college, I was going to do Penn State, Maine 4 years, and I realized, well, tuition for 1 year is $16,000 in total. I went straight to Mrs. Moreira. That doesn't include room and board either. Yeah, I went straight to Mrs. Moreira, Mr. Gaidos, and they both actually pushed me to do the 2+2, and even if I could do 4 years at Penn State York, they also pushed me to do that now. So now I'm a Penn State York student, freshman. College is free for my first 2 years, and that it just puts it warms my heart, because when I realized the tuition was $16,000, like the feeling of knowing that you're gonna have to take out loans is like a gross feeling. Like it runs in your body. Like you have to feel it to understand it. And I think being able to have the emphasis on debt and that mindset on saving and what you need and what you don't is what gave me that leg up compared to other people.
Well, I kind of want to stay on that point a little bit because I've heard that a lot of current college students, as soon as they graduate, they're met with $60, $70, or more $1,000 in debt. Because you don't have that and you don't have to worry about that, does that allow you to stay in the moment and focus more on your studies?
Definitely. I mean, like, definitely, because I hear other students what are like, well, yeah, this college only gave me $5,000 a year, and I want to go to school for pre-med. I'm like, well, I kind of feel for them, because even though I do have my 2 years of college pretty much for free, I still like understand how bad debt can affect you. So I say, well, like, I feel bad. I wish that, like, education could be free, but being able to, have college free for 2 years is a great feeling, and it actually allows me to save up more while working, and also just do my studies in like a peaceful manner.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you, Yandel. The fact is, there are in the United States, the student loan debt is about $1.7 trillion. Think about that for a second. That's a lot of debt in student loans. So to get 2 years free at the university is phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, without you two, I probably would be at Penn State, Maine, getting ready, like taking out several loans just to pay off that 1 year, or even the fall semester.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up because I had a little bit, a part of Yandel's experience at the end of his senior year. He came over and he said, Mr. Gaidos, I want to talk to you about my college. And he said, I have this 3-for-1, 1 year at Penn State York, and they're giving me a scholarship, and then 3 years at Penn State main campus. And we were talking about his situation, and everyone's situation is different. There's circumstances that are unique to everyone. And because he was willing to share and some of his circumstances with me, I said, I think Penn State has like a 2-for-2 program, or I think actually Yandel brought that up. And I said, well, all you have to do is really make a phone call to find out. And literally the next day he comes in and says, Mr. Gaidos, I made the phone call and this is what they're giving me. And so now he has 2 years paid schooling, and now in these 2 years he can save up more money, so when he goes to main campus he'll be able to pay for most, if not all of that. And now he's going to be walking out with a Penn State degree in 4 years and hopefully have no debt.
It's pretty interesting, like, not being in tune with exactly what you teach in personal finance. And initially my thought process was balancing a checkbook, but it really goes way beyond that. It's more about having the savviness to look for those legal loopholes to save money, know who to ask a simple question that it ends up netting you an extra free year of college. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I want to hear from Asher too. So Asher, you're currently going through this. You're kind of in the middle of learning some of these skills. Walk me through what a class looks like. What are some of the lessons you've been learning currently?
So far we've been in the class for about a couple of months now, and we're going over the basics of budgeting currently. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is sort of having a plan for what you're doing, and that personal finance is not a passive skill, it's an active skill. So if you truly want to save money and to save for the future, you got to take initiative and do that. Currently, we're putting together zero-based budgets, meaning that you take your total income and then account for each and every one of your expenses. That way, by the end of the month, you have everything covered. That includes giving money, saving money, and then spending it both on needed expenses like rent or utilities and stuff like that, but also enjoying some of your money, like having fun with it.
So, I mean, obviously, I can just tell by the way you're talking that you're probably a pretty good student in personal finance. You pay attention pretty closely. Have your gears been turning as you learn some of these skills in ways that have started to help you think about how you're going to apply them in the future?
Of course. I mean, a lot of the stuff that is taught in there sort of seems like, oh, yeah, that would make sense. But it's until that you take a class and truly begin to learn about that, do you fully start to develop the skills. So like Yanda said, whenever you're in the cafeteria or whenever you're looking at buying something online, it's the difference between saying, oh, I could buy this now for much more expensive, or I could buy something close, maybe off-brand or something like that, and save a bunch of money. So.
And obviously, it's clear that Yandel and Asher are superstars, right? They're academic superstars. They're probably way up there with GPA. But Mrs. Moreira, I'm curious to know, like, does it require some basic financial knowledge to take your course, or do you really start from scratch and build kids up the right way?
Listen, it doesn't take a genius to learn these skills. So whether you know a lot about personal finance or not, you are welcome in the class. It really is a hands-on class. We've got so many different activities that we utilize so the students can really come prepared knowing that they're going to be taught the skills, and there will be activities that they can do to be able to reinforce the financial concepts that we're teaching them. So don't feel intimidated. This is for the beginner. They can walk right into the class. And even if you know some things about personal finance, there'll be some things that you could learn in the class as well. We do utilize the Dave Ramsey Foundations in Personal Finance curriculum. We have highly engaging video lessons, lesson plans with lots of different activities. There are it's an online textbook. We've got case studies and assessments on the curriculum. So there's lots of information to be learned.
And you kind of mentioned something that I want to talk about, those engaging activities. I had the pleasure of visiting Mr. Gaidos' classroom when you were sort of just starting to talk about the stock market challenge that you do annually, I believe. Can you give us a little bit of insight into that? Because I think that's one of those cool activities that sort of illustrates how some of these skills are taught.
Yes. So in personal finance too, we take these basic skills that we learned in personal finance 1 and we try to expand on them. So we do talk about investing in the stock market in personal finance 1, but we don't have a lot of time to really get into detail. So it's kind of like the advanced placement or the honors type of course where you get to dig in a little bit. And so last year, we got connected with a national competition throughout the country for the second semester students in personal finance 2. And they worked in groups, and they were basically stockbrokers. They were buying and selling stocks. And there were about 1,500 groups throughout the country. And that you could see each group, if they made money or lost money. And it really got the students involved with, why do stocks go up and down? How to reduce your risk? A lot of people say the stock market is like gambling. But if you really start to understand how to use it and reduce your risk, the stock market is one of the ways that people who have money have it, because they use it to get ahead. They allow their money to work for them, and it basically becomes a second income if you know how to do it the right way and use some of the skills that we use. And that just gets them involved with looking at stocks, knowing how the stock market works, what the risks are, how to diversify, and what that looks like over a period of time. And we can relate that directly back to retirement, 401ks, Roth IRAs, and just regular investing.
So it's definitely not just about managing your money correctly, but also giving you ways to grow your money, right?
Yes. So it's making your money make money, because it's really hard to just save enough money. So you need to find another way, rather than getting second jobs, third jobs, where you can put your money in a place that's going to grow. And there are these investment calculators all over the place online. You can punch numbers in. And I just saw Susie Orman have an article out, and people were just bashing her because if you put $100 away from 25 to 65 and you invest it on the stock market average of 11%, you're going to be a millionaire at 65 with $100 a month. And people are just bashing her, saying, that's impossible. That's not how it works. Someone do the math. That is the math. She's telling us. It's kind of like the cheat code you were talking about. Now the problem is, do you do it? And if you don't do it, it doesn't work. So how can we find $100 a month for our students. And that's what we're doing. We're finding those little things. These guys have talked about, can I save a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there? Now I have $100 I can start investing, putting into my 401k, whatever that might look like. And now when they get to retirement, they can retire and not have to worry about money because they have a second income.
And to tie all of this in, I came into personal finance one with, practically no knowledge. I knew I had to save, and I knew that, there were going to be more expenses coming on in the near future, but it was never as deep as personal finance 1 and 2 got. I got in class, I'm like, well, saving, the new PS5 is going to come out soon. Why would I save? So being able to start with paying, trying to pay car with cash and how to do that, to now looking at different views of, Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, and then now picking up books of Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Intelligent Investor, and seeing different ways how to invest or how to save, and just reading different perspectives on money. I used to come into class for personal finance 2 all the time, and I would ask Mr. Gaidos questions every single day because I wanted to learn more. I was practically hungry to know how to save money, how to invest, how to do this, how to do that. And Mr. Gaidos would answer my questions. Sometimes they were vague, and I'm not sure if he did this in a way to make me more curious, but if so, I would go home every day, or I would literally leave class and my gears would start shifting because I want to know how this works. I want to know why, the rich has been using LLCs and how they've been using that to their advantage to dodge certain taxes.
Yeah, students believe that they have to save $1 million to have $1 million, and they don't. Right, we go over this scenario in the class. It's Jack and Blake. So I want you to picture these 2 guys, right? Jack starts investing $200 at age 21. He does $200, invests $200 every month from ages 21 through 30. So just for 9 years, right? The second guy, Blake, decides to wait later. He starts to invest $200 from age 30 until 67. So he does it for 37 years. Guess who has more money? The first guy who started early and only did it for 9 years, or the second guy who started later and did it for more years? Believe it or not, Jack, the first guy, even though he only invested $21,000 of his own money, he ends up with $2.5 million. Whereas the guy who started later and invested for 37 years only ends up with $1.5 million. Still good money, right? But still, it's $1 million less. This speaks to the power of timing as well as compound interest. You want to start early and you want to be consistent over time. Saving $100, $200 every month will lead you to financial success.
I'll be honest, I was going to guess guy number 2.
I'm sure you would.
I definitely would have been wrong. So if this class can convince students to forego a video game purchase, I would say that's pretty powerful stuff.
It's funny because we have an assignment in Personal Finance 1, and it talks about, okay, first of all, who wants to be a millionaire? And most people don't raise their hands, believe it or not.
Wouldn't have guessed that. Yeah, my hand's raised.
Yeah, because they don't think that it's possible, right? And when we go through all the training and we talk about just how possible it is and exactly how they can do it, they see it as a viable option. It's something that they're able to achieve. You can be financially independent, right? You just have to become financial literate and know exactly what to do.
Being able to teach the financial literacy has such a great impact. It's simple with the analogy, you give a man a fish, you feed him for 1 day. You teach a man how to fish, you feed him for the rest of his life. So by equipping people with these skills, it's unimaginable the amount of changes that it makes. And it's not as simple as just giving a person a large amount of money, because if they don't know what to do with it, it'll be gone within a day, a month, a week.
Yeah, unfortunately, people who win the lottery tend to lose it within a few years, right? Lots of NBA players and NFL players become bankrupt within the first 5 years after retirement. A lot of it is because they just don't know how to effectively manage their finances. So my thing to students is don't become a statistic, right? 60% of Americans don't have enough savings to cover a $1,000 emergency. 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 38% of U.S. households have credit card debt. 40% of student loan borrowers are expected to go into default by 2023. And 33% of American adults have $0 saved for retirement. Don't become a statistic.
Well, I have to imagine that some students who are listening to this episode, their ears are perking up a little bit. And they're probably thinking, well, that sounds like a class I want to take. I understand this is an elective, right? So any student who has availability on their schedule can take it. Are there any grade requirements, any other prerequisites that they need to know about?
There are no prerequisites. In Personal Finance 1, there are several chapters. The first is Introduction to Personal Finance. Then we go into budgeting basics, saving money, credit and debt, college planning, financial services, investing, and retirement. And you get additional information in Personal Finance too.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here today because honestly, it's been an education for me, but also just sharing the word about the awesome stuff that happens here at York Tech, including personal finance, is just a passion of mine, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I also want to throw out a shout out to our production assistant Jordan Collins, who's assisting with audio and editing today. I appreciate that. We hope you'll join us for the next episode of Inside York Tech. In the near future, we have some other great guests and topics planned, so you definitely won't want to miss it. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside York Tech. Catch all future episodes by subscribing to your favorite podcast platform or by visiting ycst.info/podcast.